The beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my right?
Hello, wackos. Welcome to Without a Country. I am Corinne Fisher, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to fix my hair because I look like a child with a side ponytail, and that's going to bother me for the whole show. Sorry, Mike. Did you like this child side ponytail? You're loving it? You're loving the look? I'm a woman. I'm running for Congress or something.
I feel like that was just a swipe at our friend Chloe.
Oh no, I didn't even think of Chloe. She doesn't do a side pony. She kind of does a wild, like a here pony, you know? And that's Chloe. That's the Chloe vibe. Welcome to Without a Country, wackos. Wow, it feels like I've lived 18 lifetimes since the last time we spoke, which was only a week ago. I can't believe it's been only a week since the election. It truly feels like a lifetime. But yeah, it's been an emotional week. Not like, sitting at home crying. Some people, and if you did that, good for you. Let it out, baby. But yeah, no, if you follow me on Instagram, I've been starting some fights, but not just for the sake of starting fights. I am merely, putting points out into the universe that people, men, aren't responding well to. Okay, setting traps, and men are falling in them right and left. And I don't think I have to speak in this way on this show, because when I say men, it's a certain type of man. And any man that needs me to say it's not all men, any man that needs that to be clarified, well, you're just as much a part of the problem, right? When people say things about white women or whatever type of women or feminists, unless I feel like I am guilty of whatever it is they're accusing me of, it makes me feel 0% type of way, because I know who I am and I know I'm not that person. So if when you hear critiques of men as a man, it makes you feel defensive, then maybe investigate that feeling, because maybe there's something that you need to feel defensive about. Maybe you do fear that in some way you are enabling the patriarchy or that you're a bad person. And that's not even accusatory, right? I certainly feel that way as a white person. Sometimes when black people say things about racism, it makes me feel a bit uncomfortable. And I go, well, why does that make me feel uncomfortable? Maybe there's some changes that I need to make in my life or in my school of thought, because certainly just as much as I think there is ingrained misogyny in absolutely everything in America, I also think there's ingrained racism in everything in America. And I'm not... I just don't speak about that because it's not my area of expertise. My theory. I think that we should all kind of pick one or two things and get to know them at an expert level, because there are too many faux experts on everything out there, and it's doing no one a service, including the person who is doing it. So I, have committed at this point, at least a good portion of my life already, I have committed to women's issues and heterosexual relationships, whether that be romantic or the way that we just kind of relate in the world. So that is my area of expertise, and that's why I talk about that so much: misogyny, the patriarchy. And I agree with you. I think that these words have been overused, and so unfortunately, they feel like they have lost meaning. But if you're using them correctly, they have a very deep meaning. And I do think it's part of the plan, right, to kind of make fun of the words and say that they are overused, and use them in jokes often, and say them back to feminists so that they lose meaning, but they have meaning, and do not lose sight of that. So yeah, I fought some men on the internet. Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday. Wednesday I did a monologue on this show, my monologue that had so many people calling in, and then I posted it the following day as an open letter to men post-election. And I was hoping it would get a little bit of traction because I really meant what I said and I wanted that message to go out into the world. But man, oh man, did it get a bigger response than I thought. You know what? I got to be honest. I am guilty of underestimating you men, underestimating just how mad anytime we find you out, how mad you'll get about it. If you want to just get a bucket of popcorn and read the comments on the monologue that I did on this show last week. Obviously, if you're a wacko, you've heard it already. But look at the internet's reaction to that if you have not already. And truly enjoy. And thanks to everyone who shared it on their Instagram stories. I thought it was important. And, I mean, obviously, I've been going, I said that I was going to go crazy in like a positive way, meaning like I'm going to be motivated. I'm going to pursue something in politics. I've already put some plans together, done some research. Obviously, this is a huge thing, so it's not going to happen overnight. And I was thinking about it quite seriously over the weekend. I really love being a comedian, and I don't want to stop being a comedian, right? And although Donald Trump, is both or has been both a television show host, game show host, whatever it is, been part of wrestling, been part of, been in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Although he has done all these things, he didn't really do them simultaneously. So I don't know, especially as a woman, that I would be able to have any serious role in politics and also be a stand-up comedian. So it's kind of do I pause my comedy career? Do I end it entirely and move on to the next thing in my life? That one makes me sad because I really still love doing stand-up and I think there's work to be done there. Anyway, we'll see. But I went to the woods and I thought about that for a couple of days because I was like, let me just let the internet sit, because people who didn't, it's fun to go at certain people's throats, but people who didn't need to be going at one another's throats were going at one another's throats, and things were being interpreted, misinterpreted in certain instances. So I was like, all right, I set some traps. I'm going to go to the woods. My doggy, Sir Alfred Hitchcock, led me on an incredible 6-mile hike. I mean, this little boy, I don't know if you guys know how, Alfred's tiny. He's like 17 pounds, if that. This guy went on and this was not an easy level hike. This was like a moderate, higher level hike. 6 miles, 3 hours. Got dark towards the end because we planned it poorly, and he led us through the end of it by just his scent. Because there was sometimes when the road was splitting and we're like, oh, I don't remember which way to go, and I was like, let's just follow Alfred. I think he knows, and he knew. What a great dog. But yeah, so hopefully you guys touched grass, as the kids said over the weekend, had time to do that. And now let's get down to business. You guys have been so motivated in so many ways in my inbox. And you've said that the show has inspired you. And I'm going to throw that compliment right back at you, because your excitement about the show and about politics has inspired me and motivated me right back. And I just love the community that we have created here. I'm also going to say, I was walking Alfred to the park today, and I saw there's an art gallery in my neighborhood, so East Village, and there was a tiny sign on the front window that said, "Please don't talk about the outside world." And this is a gallery that I pass pretty much every day. So I'm like, this is a new addition. I've never noticed this tiny sign before. And obviously I would interpret as, please don't talk about politics. Like, this is kind of my respite in here from politics. And I've been mulling that over all day because I don't know how to feel about it, right? Obviously, I'm an artist, a different kind of artist. This was, like a paint show at the gallery of paintings. And there's a part of me that was kind of scoffed at that and said, what are you talking about? Art is a direct response to what is happening in the real world. To separate the two is foolish and fanciful and just not what art is. But then there's the other part of me that was like, all right, well, we can't be going at each other's throats nonstop. It's just not sustainable. We can't talk about politics from the time we wake up in the morning until the time we go to bed at night. And so art also serves as a respite from the real world, right? That's what, Harry Potter is. I mean, Harry Potter, it's weird because it's like, okay, well, it is a fantasy book, but there's also obviously real world themes that, everyone's nemesis, J.K. Rowling, talks about in the book. So again, I'm torn. If you have any thoughts on this was more kind of just like a fun, interesting thought exercise that I gave myself while walking around the East Village. This is what I do, guys. The wheels are always turning. I must look like a fucking psycho walking down the street because I have full-on conversations with myself, mulling it over. I just assume everyone thinks I'm practicing some sort of a monologue for an audition because it is New York. Also, I heard more chatter, a couple days after the election about possible election fraud. I don't want to go down that road until, any claims are more substantiated. Like until it's more like concrete that I don't think that. I don't want to be like the right was last time. That being said, wouldn't it make sense that something happened with the voting? Because last time, the right went crazy calling election fraud, right? And it just reminded me so much of a boyfriend who always accuses you of cheating because he's cheating, right? You're like, where did that idea even come from? And you're like, oh, it's something that you planned on doing. It's like it's something that you would plan next time to win, because in hindsight, you guys should have cheated and then you could have won the election. I don't know. It just was weird. And then I also found out that Rachel Maddow had been kind of talking about that on her show before we saw the election results. And she had accumulated a lot of sound bites of Donald Trump saying at numerous rallies, we don't need your votes, which she thought was suspicious. And then she also presented some tweets from Elon Musk kind of saying like, we're going to win no matter what. And she just thought that was fishy. So again, this is not really what I wanted to spend my time on this week, but I'm just going to kind of be like, put that out there, put a pin in it. I don't want to be part of a conspiracy theory, but that's what it is. It's been a wonderful week serving you guys because as a unmarried, childless woman, I do have the luxury of being able to go crazy on the internet because I have the time. And I also have the luxury of being able to go crazy on the internet because I work for myself. And I realize I'm going to acknowledge my privilege. Not everyone has the privilege of being able to go absolutely ape shit on the internet. And I'm like, of course I lose work, over this. Like, it's work that I wouldn't even know existed, and people unfollow me or certain colleagues don't want to work with me. I say, fuck them. We don't need those people. The beautiful thing about working for yourself, is that you can say whatever the fuck you want. And being childless and unmarried, there's really no one else who I have to worry about, I have a mom, I have a brother. My mom obviously, doesn't ask that I don't post pictures of her until she's done with her teaching career, which is soon. So maybe you guys will get to meet Di-Fi sooner rather than later. And, my brother, he doesn't. He's very chill and pretty much offline. But I only, if you want to come at anyone, fucking come at me. It fuels me, if I'm being honest. If you think you're doing me a disservice by trolling me online, you're not. You're fueling me. Before we get into Enemy of the State, I don't always do this on this show, but I wanted to make a couple Netflix recommendations because I watched two great things on Netflix in the past week. I was pretty bummed, obviously, about the election results, and I think that's fine, but more bummed than I was expected to be. And I had wanted to watch the Will and Harper documentary, which is, Will Ferrell and his really good friend who transitioned recently, and they do a cross-country American road trip, and he gets to understand this, new version of who his friend is. And I was excited. I'm so glad that I didn't get to it until after the election because I really it was a perfect thing to watch to reveal both the beauty and the hatred that exists in this country. And I highly recommend it. Like if you need a holiday film or if you're having a hard time kind of explaining why a person would want to be trans, what being trans means, how it is much easier to accept someone than to hate someone or to fear them. I really recommend showing your family Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. I really recommend sitting down and watching Will and Harper, because I think if you sit down and watch that and you still cannot grasp trans people, hate trans people, then you're kind of hopeless. You're a lost cause. But I really, really liked that. I thought it might be like schlocky or heavy-handed, and I don't like that fucking heavy-handed liberal shit either that's telling me how I need to think. You know me, critical thinking. But I really liked Will and Harper. I thought it did a really nice job of showing, you know, so many levels of friendship and the trans experience. And then the second thing, this is certainly more of a recommendation to women, but I would love if men watched it to maybe understand the plight of women in power and how women are constantly punished for succeeding. The Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix is really superb, and it's not one-sided. There's certainly a lot of stuff that makes Martha look bad. It is called Martha. I just was looking for the title. But yeah, she was like the first female billionaire in America. I don't even think I knew that. And men went out of her way to punish her for that. You know, we remember that Martha Stewart went to prison. And I think as a society, we decided that it was justified. But when you watch this documentary, this might change your mind. And you might say, you know, it's more like a little girl spoke out too much and then got a spanking. That's more what her prison sentence seemed like to me after watching the documentary. But listen, whatever you think of Martha Stewart, I think there are things that can be learned from both her experience and the way that she looked at her personal life and her career. And I really like that. So those are my two recommendations. And now let's get to my enemy of the state this week, man. My enemy of the state this week, I mean, I don't know if I should give it to Fox News Network as a whole, if I should give it to the show Fox News Saturday Night, if I should give it to a woman who appeared on the show this past week, Caitlin Sinclair, maybe to all of them. But
enemy of the state.
That trio, though, is my enemy of the state. So listen, friends are involved in this, so I don't want to throw people under the bus by name. Well, I'm going to throw one person under the bus, Caitlin Sinclair, but I don't want to throw friends under the bus, right? So basically what happened is I was scheduled for weeks to be on Fox News Saturday Night, the show that I regularly appear on Fox News, to be on the Saturday after the election. So this past Saturday for weeks. And some of the people, and again, I'm not going to point out names, some of the people involved in the show, in the making of the show, in the creation of the show, post-election, were posting some pretty wild things online. And I wasn't going to just let it go because these are people who, you know, sometimes let me be on TV, right? Not my style. My manager loves me because I love to burn a bridge, but I burn a bridge when it's necessary to burn a bridge. Okay, we don't want to walk across dirty bridges for TV time. Yuck. So I simply commented on one of the people involved Instagram on a really fucking shitty post about abortion that I would see this person on Saturday kissy face. Okay. It was cunty and it was meant to be. And it was combative and it was meant to be. And I pretty much knew once I left that comment, even though it seemed so simple, so harmless, I pretty much knew that after I pressed, send on that comment, that very shortly after, I would get a text from the booker that said, there's been a scheduling change. I've been in this business a long time. I knew who I was dealing with, and I certainly said things in a manner that would piss this person off. And just for security, so I was on record, I told both my boyfriend and Christina that there would be a scheduling change. And I told Mike, oh yeah, Mike's pointing at himself. And I told Mike, I said, this thing went down on Instagram. You watch very shortly I'm going to be getting a text that there was a scheduling change at Fox. And so, like clockwork, less than 24 hours later, because I think I made the comment at night, so they had to get back to the office. So less than 24 hours later, of course, I get a text that there's been a scheduling change. You know what? And I don't even respect that. Because listen, tell me the reason. Don't tell me there's been a scheduling change. Tell me that your show isn't as open as you claim to be and that you fucking didn't like what I said. You felt disrespected because I dared to challenge your views and that you didn't want me on the show because I was going to be a fucking headache. I was going to be a fucking headache and I might make you look wrong or weak on the show. Please, I would respect that a little bit more, right? I would respect that a little bit more than a scheduling change. And so I said to the booker man, I said, I appreciate the cordial nature of this text, but I know why there's been a scheduling change. And, the person said, no, it's nothing about politics. Fuck that. Everything's about, it's a literal news network. It's about politics. And I don't know how I feel at this point about going on that network anymore. Because it's, these people who say that they want free speech, I just don't think that they really do. I can't read that. It's way too far away. What? Okay. Well, 1 second. And so my replacement, my friend Danny Polishchuk was on the show, and I was really pissed because I was so excited to be on the show with him. I love Danny. He's one of my closest friends. He was on the election special, right? And so I was like, Danny, and that's another reason I knew there wasn't a scheduling change because I was like, oh, the other comedian's still there, right? So my replacement, because they only allow one woman per show on Fox News, is this chick named Caitlin Sinclair. I don't even know who this bitch is. I really don't. But this is who they chose to replace me for this episode. I want to go to her Instagram profile right now, and you should too because it's a real trip. And it says she's a news personality. She's the official spokeswoman of Turning Point Action. Oh, okay. So look at Turning Point Action is a special organization. Her bio says fueled by faith and stake, not for betas or Karens. Okay, so. This is the woman who replaced me, and I do have a clip of her, part of her appearance on the episode that I would like to play, Michael, that we have queued up. And this is the part of her appearance that she pinned on her own Instagram. But there's more, and we will talk about it. But yeah, this is Caitlin Sinclair. I'm blocking the screen, I think.
Women, or am I not getting it?
Whole question for the women. These liberal women are shaving their heads, protesting.
Donald on the
Trump.
TikTok chicks? Yeah.
So shaving their heads to protest the election results. Why don't these women just start with shaving their armpits?
So wait, you're basically saying, because I saw this video, and a lot of us watched it, and we were like, none of these chicks were getting laid before.
No.
Is that what we're dealing with here?
Yeah, it's like me saying, I'm not going to play in the NBA. I'm going to boycott the NBA.
Since Trump won.
Since Trump won.
Ziolis that
I'm not playing for the Eagles.
He's
you
out.
can kiss my...
Yeah.
And also, aren't we going to just eradicate liberalism if they just don't procreate anymore?
Sure.
I mean, this kind of seems like the answer,
A win
right?
is a win.
This is a win-win.
They just don't reproduce, and we're good.
This is the most underrated positive coming out of this election. But the plot twist is that conservative men marry conservative women, and we all have more babies, and the world's happy.
Okay, so that's Caitlin Sinclair, everybody. That's what she chose to clip. What she did not choose to clip, and I'm not sure if it was a cut out of re-airs, but the show is live, and this part did, in fact, make it onto the initial live broadcast. She, on air, referred to Whoopi Goldberg as a monkey. That was my replacement. That's who Fox News chose to replace me. The most hack, racist, insane thing. Apparently, even the people over at Fox were appalled by that comment. So thank God that they understand that that is completely unacceptable, archaic, crazy, racist behavior. But she didn't put that. And if you look in the comments of the clip that she pinned for herself, it's just everyone going crazy, going wild, loving her because she's hot She's hot. There's no disputing that. Caitlyn Sinclair is hot. But she's also making the world worse for women with what she's saying, and men love that. All right? There should be two Hooters. One where ladies with big jugs serve you wings, and one where ladies say pick me girl statements all day and serve you french fries, because men would go to both of these. And also, in response to their conversation about these chicks not getting laid anyway, I hate to break it to you, America, but ugly, crazy chicks get fucked too, okay? Just this. Unfortunately, ugly men, I think, ugly, crazy men get fucked maybe a little less. I don't know. I think that's more like rich men. But like what I will say is ugly, crazy chicks, or crazy, in quotes, chicks, please know they get fucked a ton, okay? So you have this like notion that they weren't having sex. They were having sex, okay? They were having sex, I assure you. But yeah, that is my enemy of the state this week. Wow, that was quite the episode there. I really don't know what to say. Again, I'm only pinning that on Caitlyn Sinclair because like I heard that everyone else on the show, their jaws dropped. Everyone was furious with Caitlyn. So at least that is, I guess, the silver lining. But that's what they would rather have on their show than to have a real, honest conversation about what just happened in our election. Moving on, I want to say a huge thank you. Again, I logged into my Without a Country inbox this week, and I was inundated with emails about new subscribers to my Patreon. It seems that you guys were super motivated in the way I was to see some change, to make some change in politics. And so I got so many new subscriptions this week. And then on top of that, I noticed that so many existing Patreon subscribers, you upgraded to the higher level payment tier. And I see you and I appreciate you. And that was so cool. And again, you guys are just like really inspiring me so much and motivating me. And again, helping fund really cool things like the amazing election show that we were able to do and stream, and everyone got paid, and there was so much talent on it, and that costs money. And thank you so much for funding really awesome things like that. And thanks to my Patreon subscribers, my dictator Hannah Pendergrass. I believe this is her 3rd month being dictator, so shout out to you. My capitalist pigs, old and new, Joe P., Nicole Perks, L. Watson, Holly Clark, Joshua Callahan, Stephanie Anderson, Brandy Otter, Brandon Oglesby, Lauren Manu, Carrie, Caroline Bonner, Erica Backus, Lisa Ashbacher, Barbara Mondragon, Delaney Muncie, Randy Peterson, Tegan, McKenna Hansen, Leah M. Ellers, Laura Lynn Pearson, Christopher Fanguy, Sarah, Norris Mark, Hale Stiers, EMCP333, Camilla Driggs, Jenny Lynn, Carolyn, Katie Robbins, Hannah Ronaldo, Jennifer Daly, Catherine Best, Tim Ackerman, Boo Batsy, Lakin Keene, Lil Floha, Jesse Paygrain, Audra Williams, Crystal Schmidt, Shelby Snyder, Michael Fow, Amber Christensen, Talene Georgian, Lila Lee Soley, Jasmine Grant, Bridget, Luke, Marisa James, Chuggle, Brittany Gustus, and Alex Hart Sierra Mataro. And my cuties, old and new, Brianna Middleman, Samantha Johnson, Esther Van Alst. I love your name. It's like so fucking powerful. Jasmine Ruiz, Lauren Natinsky, Jessica Michelle, Laura Wolf, Morgan, Amanda, Elizabeth Snell, Emma Flowers, Emily, Karen Denise, Amir Hassan, Elisa McCall, Long Arms Length, Sophia Tauber, Gemma James, Miranda, Emily Eckelberger, Rebecca _99, Cavs 138, Zoe Ross, Annie Green, Heidi Lundquist, Nicole, Carl Murphy, Margarita Cranova, Beth Brunner, Lauren Moorkill, Chris Gordon, Tori Colster, Desiree Coutinho, Kristen Hood, Sammy Lane, Ms. Mack, Emily LaFontano, Fright Lab, and Fright Lab. Fright Lab's and I feel like Fright Lab has to be the fucking mic drop every time. So thank you so much. If you want to become a Patreon subscriber and support all the things we're doing on this show, head over to YouTube, patreon.com/withoutaCountry. But also, while you're doing that, while you're surfing the net anyway, also head over to youtube.com/withoutaCountry. If that's not the way that you're watching the show, click subscribe. Our subscriber number has been going up. And again, this just gets the show out to more people, allows us to do more things, and allows this conversation to be heard. Now let's get into
Speaking of conversations to be heard, we've had a caller from the moment we went live.
Oh, okay.
It does check the box of being a lady because
Who is it?
no dudes can call in this week, right?
No, I'm allowing dudes this week.
Dudes can call in this
that
week.
was a 1 week rule.
Okay.
I think it's unfair to, because the energy on this show overall is very positive. But what's the name of the caller?
This is Alex from Orange, New Jersey.
Oh, Jersey girl.
gal.
I love it. Okay, Alex from Orange. There's so many oranges. But
Hi.
Hello, Alex.
I'm from West Orange.
Yeah, I was going to
But
say there's
it's
so many
okay.
oranges. I was like, but she's from West Orange, Mike. And if you were
West
from
Orange,
Jersey, you would know that that's a very nice orange.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And you're a Jersey girl too, originally, right?
Yes, I'm from Union Township in Union County.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm right near there. It's been, I think, a really crazy week for, I would say, 70 million, if not more.
Yeah.
Of us.
Yeah.
I guess, I've been reading and watching probably too many postmortems of the election, and I'm a progressive. I voted for Harris. I volunteered pretty much since every single Democratic presidential candidate since I turned 18 in 2008 for Obama.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very, very invested in this, very involved. And I feel like I've been sitting on this, and maybe part of it is that I'm just trying to be optimistic because the alternative is just so soul crushing.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like a big problem, and so many different pundits have obviously talked about this, is this misinformation. Like, talking to people, doing this phone banking. I'm sure you've experienced this, going on tour and going a lot of red states throughout the country.
Yeah.
Talking to people that I know that have voted for Trump. Like, it's just so interesting that, and you've talked about this on your show, that like you can present somebody with a true fact, and it's like saying the sky is green. Like, oh, well, do you know how a tariff works? And then you explain it to them.
Right.
And then they have an aha moment. And then it's like, oh, no, but that's not how it works. Or,
right.
Okay, so you want to deport, millions of undocumented workers, immigrants. Do you know what if the economy is such a big issue for you, or you're concerned?
It's billions of dollars.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, so then do you know what that means? Like, do you know who picks the apples that are in the grocery store? Do you know, you're concerned about grocery store prices.
Right. If you think they're expensive now, imagine if American workers are picking them, how much they're going to be.
So, and then it's like, no. So I'm trying to be, thinking towards the midterms and the next election cycle. And I really don't know how we come back from that, especially now that Elon Musk is, in charge of this government oversight, organization. And he keeps talking about government redundancies and being head of X. And I just I'm kind of, most scared about that, to be honest. Like, I'm scared for an abortion ban. I'm scared for what it means to deport millions of people that live here. But to be honest, that is just this overarching umbrella that I'm most concerned about.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I don't know if you heard me say, I think I heard, it was on last week's show that I said, it's been so interesting. I've been on social media for so long, and I'm obviously, because of my career, very active on social media. And I've been on Twitter for many, many years. I love it. I'm on record as saying it's my favorite social media platform. And then when it turned to, and I know what my engagement is, right? So I know approximately how many people will follow me and unfollow me every week. I know, and when something kind of veers off that, and I haven't posted content that makes sense to do so, or for that to happen, things are fishy. And I've never experienced anything like that before, except for the past couple of months on X. Basically since it turned to X, obviously my feed is pretty liberal. I'm posting pretty liberal things, and I have just seen every day I lose 100 followers, and it's not because of what I'm saying. Half the time I'm losing 100 followers, I didn't even post on X that day. And so if we're talking about misinformation, I'm definitely at this point convinced that Elon Musk, at the very least, is draining followers from people who aren't paying him to be on the app, and at the very worst is scanning conversations for things that he doesn't like, or has not him personally, has a software to do that, and is having those accounts drained of followers. I don't love to dive into a conspiracy theory, but that's been wild. And it's really proven when you ask people where they get, they did so many, exit polls and breakdowns of who voted for who. And they did one, and I looked at so many, I unfortunately can't cite the source, and that's very unlike me for this show, but wasn't prepared to talk about it. But there was one source kind of saying where Democrats get their information from, and it's, mostly from periodicals, and where Republicans mostly get their information from, and it was from social media. And that's a huge problem. But I also think that Democrats have to, in a way, understand that this is the way America is going. And like I said before, we need a liberal version of Fox News that is big, that is a major platform where we use little words and we explain things as simply as possible. This idea that we are, smarter and better and more well informed. Even if it's true, it's not working. It's separating us from uneducated votes that we quite frankly need. And I really agree with you. And I think that's why I've been so vocal about really, it's not where I am, in the world. If I had more money, I would certainly, and I had millions and millions to spend into something, I would be so excited about funding that for someone who wanted to take that project under their wing. But I keep talking about it on this show, hoping that some young woman who's looking for a path in life will hear that, and whose passion is journalism, and will create that. Because I have faith in our listeners that someone who is listening can do that. It's not me. But I would support it.
And I don't know. Yeah, to that end, I don't know if you saw, or if you were planning on talking about later in the show, what AOC did, which I thought was so smart, where she polled.
Yes, I have the screenshots in front of me. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you're going to talk about it later, but, because initially it was just so jarring and so upsetting. And I did want to say, I was literally crying the next day for myself and my 2-year-old daughter. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this country is disgusting. These people are disgusting. These people are racist. These people are sexist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I was like, wait, there's 75 million of these people who feel this way.
Right.
And
right.
It's not helpful. I think everyone who feels that way should feel that way, but it's not helpful to continue this tribalism. And I really admired her, especially, I'm sure, as someone that's targeted by, a lot of very dangerous people, to say, hey, if you voted for Trump and you support me, why? I really want to understand, what were the issues that you cared most about, mm-hmm. and where do you get your information from? Right. And I think that's going to be it. And I think also, I actually work in communications and PR, and I think using, as Bernie says it, one talking point. This is about corporate greed. What Trump did was say, the economy is hurting. I'm going to make it better for you. It's these guys over here. It's these immigrants. I'm going to make it so that you don't have to put items back at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. And people just heard that, and they ignored all of the, insane things that he says. And I think that it is also optics and better talking points, and a better candidate that can deliver that. Although I loved Kamala, I think the $1 billion that they spent, whatever aides were consulting her, it was a 10 bulleted list of talking points. And I think,
yeah, I mean, she also just didn't have
much more powerful
enough time to run for president, quite frankly.
Sure.
Like, I think that was a huge
she was
problem.
put in a, of course.
And then
yes,
I mean,
of course.
yeah, I mean,
impossible situation.
Yeah, and regarding the money thing, because that's I've seen so many liberals on my feed snarkily post, some terrible thing that's happening in society and be like, I hope your cheap eggs are worth it, or like, I hope eggs are $32.
Yeah, but people are hurting.
And
people
so
are hurting.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, the thing is, though, it's like, if you're broke in a capitalist country like America, that really is all you're thinking about, because you can't get to step B if you can't get past step A, which is feeding your family. Yeah. So to respond to it like that, like, oh, I would pay $32 for a carton of eggs if justice is served. It's like, people can't think about justice if they're hungry, if they're so hungry that they can't fall asleep, right? So I just don't think that's the energy that we need. It's easy to say you'd pay $32 for eggs if you have $32 for eggs. Yes, sure. I would pay $32 for eggs if it meant that the family next door wasn't going to get deported. Yes. But not everyone has the luxury of being able to do that. And at the end of the day, if we're talking pure survival here, one of the first things you do is you have to feed yourself and your family. So I just...
Yeah, and especially like, being in Jersey, I know that you've probably seen this as well. Like, Trump only lost by 5 percentage points.
I saw.
County, but it's like... Yeah, it's definitely, I see the tide turning, and housing is insanely expensive here. Public schools, like, teachers are, because the wages aren't high enough. They're larger class sizes, and people just want to point fingers. I know folks that live in Central Jersey that there's just a lot of vitriol towards immigrants for that reason, and people are just upset and they don't know where to put that passion. And I totally agree with you on all that, but I know other people want to talk to you, so I'll let
I love this. Thank you so much for and thanks for all the work that you've done for the Democratic Party over I don't know how old you are, but over X amount of years. That's certainly appreciated, and thanks for calling in.
Thanks, have a good night. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye. I love people from Jersey. I just love them. I can't. I'm obsessed. Okay, so let's get in. Mike, we're not, unless someone you think is making a really good point. I loved that phone call, but I'm like looking at the time and I have so much to get to. But and I love how many more women are calling. But men are not banned this week. But make it a really fucking good point if you're calling in. All right. So this is from the Wacko Mailbag. This is from Wacko Amy. And her subject line said, "I am a woman who voted for Trump, and now my liberal friends think I hate them or they hate me. I am not sure which one, truthfully." I'm reading. I'm excited. Corinne and Mike. I've been a listener of yours since the podcast began. I believe I'm not your typical demographic. I'm a 30-year-old stay-at-home mom, Jesus follower, and hold views that lean more right than left. I am committed to neither party. I disagree with you on many issues, but I still value your perspective. This was the first election I've ever voted for the Republican candidate. I voted for Trump. Among other reasoning, I was heavily influenced by RFK Jr., whose views and promise via the MAHA campaign I admire and respect. I think she means MAGA, right? Because what's that? I'm misinformed. What's
MAHA? Make America Healthy Again.
Oh, that's okay. He just did a little trickle down. Okay. I don't even know that I put that in my brain. I might have repressed that. Okay, so the Make America Healthy Again campaign. I admire and respect. I hope he will be held accountable to keep such promises. You know what? And I listen, his vaccine stances concern me greatly. The thing that he's going to fire like 200 people just out of the gates or whatever that number was, that worries me greatly. But if he can make the regulations on the food and drink that we put in our bodies better for us the way it is in Europe, that would be a really positive thing to come out of this leadership, because our food in America is killing us, and it doesn't need to be that way. That being said, with people, also at the helm like Elon Musk and billionaires, I don't see the reason that our food sucks is because of corporate greed. So I'm really perplexed on how having so many billionaires at the helm is going to enable in any way make America healthy again. But we'll see, because that's one part of his values or promises that I'm like, all right, yeah, I agree with you. Our food is unhealthy and let's fix that. She goes on to say children and health are two of my top concerns in our country. I have been disgusted by both Trump and Kamala supporters in their hypocrisy and how they have reacted to the results of this election. My liberal family members and friends are telling me my vote shows them I actively don't care for or love them. This is hard for me to grasp because that could not be further from the truth. Meanwhile, many of my conservative Christian friends and family are acting as if Trump is being given a divine mandate. I think that is a very concerning sentence I saw with my own eyes in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and I'm glad that you pointed it out. I'm repulsed by that concept simply because if Trump were to be given a divine mandate, I do not think he would accurately interpret it. And I love that you think that, but now I'm concerned as to why you voted for him. You basically are saying you voted for Trump to get to RFK. No. I don't like that. Saying you're Christian means very little to me. I know atheists with better morals than some of the proclaimed Christians I know. I love that I've talked about that. I will say there's two Christian comedians. Shout out to Christy Cielo, now Summers because she got married, and Ashley Austin Morris. Two amazing comedians, so funny, who I feel like really embody what it means to be a Christian in the purest sense of the word. Check out their comedy. I love them. Two friends of mine. My issue is this. I have attempted to have dialogue with my friends of opposing views. However, they are not interested in discussing. This is an issue I only seem to have with those on the left. I'm perplexed by this. I feel as though I'm being pigeonholed into one side unfairly. I do not post or flaunt my views on social media. I do not pressure friends or family or make them feel less than because they have differing perspectives or spiritual views. How do I engage in dialogue with friends and family of opposing views if they do not wish to listen or explain? Is my simple existence now offensive? Was my vote for Trump really that detrimental? Well, that question also stuck out to me because it kind of has the energy of like, oh well, my vote's just one vote, and I don't love that energy, right? Like, first of all, have a little more faith in yourself. Your vote is important, okay? I think your vote is important, not only because it counts towards the larger number of votes, but because your vote is like it represents your ethics, your morals, your integrity. I do believe that. That's what it's representative of. You're casting a ballot, I think it's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's something to be taken quite seriously, right? How do we begin to move forward if we cannot even have civil discussions? Well, Amy, I think we tried to have civil discussions, and then Trump got elected again. I'm losing literal friendships over this. I would argue perhaps the friendships weren't as strong as you thought they were, and that could go either way. Were you bringing as much to these people? If you are that easily tossed away as a friend, I would ask, what were you bringing enough to these people's lives? Positive. But also, who are these people? Are these fickle people? Were they using you? What was the relationship? I think there's a lot to unpack there. I strongly believe this will be the demise of our democracy, not a Trump or Kamala presidency. Thanks for reading if you have. I hope you do not take offense, but I pray for you often. I don't take offense. I think it's lovely that you pray for me. Thank you. I would say, though, like, there is something about it. Like, I've come to accept and enjoy it when people say that they're praying for me, but I feel like some people do use it in a combative manner. And so some people could certainly take offense to you saying they pray for them because, like, it could be interpreted as, like, what do you think I need praying for? But, like, I'm of the school of thought that I think we all need prayers or good energy thrown our way wherever that energy is coming from. So I appreciate you and thank you. And thanks for taking the time to write this. And obviously, Mike voted for Trump, and we sit here and we have, civil conversations every week, and we've been friends for a long time, and our friendship will not end over that. I mean, I'm disgusted with the vote, but I'm not disgusted with Mike as a person. We've talked about it. I think he offered some interesting perspective last week when we talked about why he voted for, Donald Trump. I will say, you kind of said in your email. And this is kind of what I'm talking about because I don't have a solution to this. We're not going to solve this. How do we talk to other people? No one's been able to really solve this. There's been so many attempts of artists. Sarah Silverman had that whole show where she talks to other people, goes around the country. Like, we've all kind of attempted this and it's not working. So I think now people are fucking angry, right? But I will also say that I think a lot of liberals do enter conversations of this nature where they're like extending an olive branch, but really they will only be satisfied if the outcome of extending that olive branch is that the Republican person ends the conversation by agreeing with everything the liberal person says. So I will agree with you on that. I do not feel that way. But you said, children and healthcare are your main issues. That's kind of all you're looking at, right? That's not very different from saying that you're a single issue voter. And I really got to be honest, the single issue voters, you guys got to get your heads out of your asses. You're living in an idealistic world if you think that you can be a single issue voter. Like, I think that's something that you tell yourself, that you're a single issue voter so that you don't feel bad for voting for a rapist and a felon. And also, rape is a felony, but I separate the two because it just feels more powerful. And I don't know that everyone knows that rape is a felony, but it is. So don't think that it's not. Yeah, I think that like, to me, if you have to constantly say that you're a single issue voter, first of all, I really only hear people who are voting Republican say that. But if you're a single issue voter, to me, if you need to proclaim that, then you feel a little bit dirty about the ballot that you're casting, about the vote that you're casting. And that's your way of relieving yourself of the responsibility of all the other things that you voted for in voting for that individual, right? We are not voting for issues. We're voting for living, breathing human beings who have many issues that they are going to tackle during their presidency. And I know that some people argue, I like his policies. I don't like him as a person. Well, he's the person who is going to be putting the policies into play. And if you think that anyone on the planet exists without bias that will go into these policies, like if you have hate and racism and misogyny and xenophobia in your heart, are you telling me that you honestly think that you can create policies that don't then have hate and racism and misogyny and xenophobia in them? Do you honestly think that? R. Kelly liked to piss on girls, and he couldn't even make it through an entire musical career without singing about pissing on girls. So I don't think that if you have hate and racism and misogyny and xenophobia in your heart, that all your policies are going to be free of those things. Come on. That's my thoughts on that. And then I'll go back, and we talked about this a little bit with the caller Alex. I still think the left is still so obsessed with being right, being correct, because saying right is confusing in this context, but with being correct and being better than, and it's just not working. So much so that this week I saw so many liberals sitting back and writing about, and this goes as attached to the $32 egg conversation, but really hoping for Trump to fail in his presidency, just so that they can sit back smugly and say, ha, 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 told you so, right? And yeah, obviously that would be satisfying in the bad version of me, in my shadow self, if we're going to speak in spiritual terms. Yeah, my shadow self would celebrate that. My ego might celebrate that. But the version of myself that I've been working on is not going to celebrate that. Best case scenario, Trump has a great presidency, and he brings the right and the left together, and people have more money and are happier, and people don't get separated from their families, and women's rights don't get taken away, and trans people rights aren't stripped from them. That's what I hope. I hope that I don't think in any way that it was all a big show. I think he was very serious, and I think things are going to only get worse. But if Trump has a great 4 years, I'm not going to be bummed about that. I'm going to be fucking stoked about that. I'm going to go, man, that could have gone really poorly, and I'm glad that it didn't. And I'm happy that my country is better now. You know, I don't know. If your hope as a liberal is that you hope America is worse after these 4 years to prove some sort of a point, you're not the love is love right side of history people that you claim to be. So Amy, I don't know if your friends hate you. I don't know if they're justified in it, but I think they're really angry right now, and and the anger I think is justified, and I think too. The main point I wanted to make to you is that you can't just say you're only voting for a couple things or because of you voted for the whole person, and now you're responsible for all of that. That's what I'm going to say. And if that ends friendships in your life, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know how strong those friendships were. Or who these people are in the world, are they gay? Are they trans? Are they what's are they women? What's going on? But maybe just think about why they're upset. You don't have to talk to them. You can just think about it by yourself and journal about it by yourself. Now let's move on. Alex mentioned AOC on her Instagram, was asking people why they would support her and Donald Trump. And Wacko Lexi saved me some time by screenshotting these for me. And I'll read some of them to you. And so the question that she posted was people who support both Trump and me or voted Trump/Democrat, tell us why. And I'm going to read the answers. It's real simple. Trump and you care for the working class. Wanted change, so I went with Trump and blue for the rest of the ballot to put some brakes. Voted Trump, but I like you and Bernie. I don't trust either party establishment politicians. Action and progress are better than stagnation and excuses. Both of you push boundaries and force growth. I would have voted for you and Trump, but I am in California. I like your style, though. Trump is going to get us the money and lets men have a voice. You're brilliant and have amazing passion. And, one of the things I think America was lacking was men not having a voice. I couldn't let that just slide. I feel like Trump and you are both real, which I feel like is the most cut and dry essence of what almost everyone here is saying. People, I know what it is that people find appealing about both AOC and Trump. I don't know how authentic I feel either of them are. And again, this is not, I don't like AOC in any way. It's just the hard celebrity turn makes me nervous. That's all I'll say about AOC. But, follow her, read what she says, all those kind of things I do. And I think her story is fucking incredible. Her story is I cried during that documentary. But again, just keep an eye. You want to make sure that if someone comes in for the people, they remain for the people. If you think Trump is for the people, I just can't grasp that. Voted for Trump in Arizona, but voted for Democrat Rubin instead of Kari Lake because he's good at handling war. I feel that you both are outsiders compared to the rest of D.C. and less establishment. Again, that's kind of really getting to the meat of what people want to see. They don't want to see these career politicians anymore, right? Will you please share what you learn? I'm baffled by the split votes. She's one person said, I know people that did this and it was because of Gaza. Again, we talked about that last week. If you are worried about what's happening to the Palestinian people, voting for Trump was a wild move. I support you and did this. Felt like I didn't have a choice after Biden's administration. I'd like some more information on that. I don't know. You just weren't impressed by it? I mean, I don't know what your thoughts were. Voted for Trump and you, not genocide Harris. Dems need Bernie. Again, that view baffles me. But also, you signified change. Trump signified change. Lately, Trump sounds more like you. She was more for rights than the economy. And when she talked about it, she didn't have a plan. That's a very interesting thing to type. She was more for rights than she was the economy. Yeah. Okay. Goddamn Democrats for rights and justice. But like I said, I understand that's not the order that things do. I do think, in a way, caring about the rights of people who are not you and your immediate family is a luxury. And I know that's hard to hear and baffling to hear, but if you can't feed your kids, you can't think about the rights of trans people that you don't know. You are focused on the real issues people care about, similar to Trump populism in some ways. Loved ones say you're both straightforward and challenging corruption and broken government. So again, it's basically, I think, besides the Gaza stuff, it's kind of all like, oh, and someone else says he speaks of war as something that is bad. Democrats became the party that supports war. We'll see. Put a pin in that for Trump, because his bestie Netanyahu, I think there's going to be some war still going on. Faux sure. Dems do a better job at the local level, but are terrible at the macro level. All right. So, but overall, this kind of goes into what Mike was saying last week, right? That he's interested in people who are, challenging the status quo. And I'm going to say it again. I don't see how a billionaire, a straight white man in America, can challenge the status quo in any way. But you know what? I hope I eat my words. I hope you guys are right, because I don't want to see this country go to shit. I hope you guys are right. And I do not like being wrong. But I would love to sit here 4 years from now and eat my words. Hopefully in like a nicer studio. Like, I love this studio and I appreciate them, but I want to be in like a fucking TV studio. All right. So that was that. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. You guys had so much amazing things that you sent to me this week, but I do want to get into Trump's picks because it's already so late, but there's so much was shared with me this week. So let's get into who Trump has picked so far. It has been fascinating to watch. It's all kind of been coming in over the past couple of days. This is from the Washington Post, and it's being updated in real time, I believe. Trump picks Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. All right. President-elect Donald Trump announced today that he plans to nominate Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. The Republican congressman from Florida resigned his seat the same day, according to House Speaker Mike Johnson, and Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii, as Director of National Intelligence. Trump also confirmed plans to nominate Senator Marco Rubio, Republican from Florida, as Secretary of State. Earlier Wednesday, Trump pledged a smooth transition as he met with President Joe Biden at the White House after a jovial meeting with the House Republicans. Yeah, so if you want to look at the chart as it's filled in, that will be interesting to watch. Obviously, a vote has to happen. Trump doesn't just get to appoint him. And I had a little inside information from someone who works in DC that hopefully that wouldn't go through, but we don't know. And this is from ABC7.com. Matt Gaetz under House ethics investigation is Trump's pick for Attorney General. If you remember, he was accused of sex trafficking and sleeping with a minor. President-elect Donald Trump announced on Wednesday that he has chosen Representative Matt Gaetz as his pick for Attorney General, a move that, if he's confirmed by the Senate, would be a firebrand and one of Trump's most loyal allies at the head of the Justice Department. Matt is a deeply gifted and tenacious attorney trained at the William and Mary College of Law, who has distinguished himself in Congress through his focus on achieving desperately needed reform at the Department of Justice, Trump said in his social media post. Gaetz is an explosive selection by Trump to be the chief law enforcement officer of the federal government, leading the very same executive branch of government that spent years investigating allegations regarding the Florida congressman. Gaetz was informed that the Justice Department would not seek charges just last year. He has long denied any wrongdoing. Basically, if you look into the sex trafficking, the Department of Justice was looking into it for a long time, and then ultimately prosecutors, he is not innocent. They just looked into it, they investigated, and they felt that it would be too timely, too expensive to prove his guilt, and then they were like, we don't want to take on this case. That does not mean the person's innocent. It means that the Department of Justice made a fucking executive decision. And also, we don't know exactly what's going on. We don't know who was paid off. We don't know who knows who, right? I'm sorry. I am sorry. You do not just get casually accused of fucking sex trafficking, okay? That's not a casual accusation that people are lobbing at you, okay? You guys can fucking whine and cry all day about the sexual assault allegations that you feel like are taking men down. You don't just get accused of sex trafficking. I am sorry. There's something sus going the fuck on there. Gaetz, and plenty of Republicans don't like Matt Gaetz too. Gaetz has been a member of Congress since winning in 2017, riding the MAGA wave that brought Trump to Washington 8 years ago. Over the years, Gaetz has become one of Trump's most ardent and, according to some allies, effective defenders in Washington, while also growing close to Trump. Again, Trump has basically no relationships left from his first term. That's crazy. Like I said on the pre-show, even me, unlikable Corinne Fisher McGee, even I'm friends with a number of my ex-boyfriends. So I think if I can be friends with a number of my ex-boyfriends, Trump should have some administration left that wants to work with him. Okay? It tells a lot. It speaks volumes about a person. It also, when people don't go along with exactly what he wants, he disposes of them. Interesting. Watch these things. He is now just appointing people who he knows will be allies, loyal, no matter what. Sounds like a dictator. Gaetz has been down at Trump's residence in Mar-a-Lago almost every day since Election Day, helping make suggestions. There's an underground sex trafficking railroad, and input on other administration selections. Sources tell ABC News. Gaetz was also seen traveling with Trump in his motorcade during his visit to Washington on Wednesday. Notably, Gaetz is very close with Trump's newly selected chief of staff, Susie Wiles, who also has deep and storied roots in Florida politics. That's one thing that I fucking hated. How many of these people were from Florida? Arguably one of the worst states politically. I love Disney World. It's gorgeous. Love it. Beginning in 2019, Gaetz faced a years-long Justice Department investigation into allegations related to sex trafficking and obstruction of justice. That's always good. When the person who is supposed to uphold the most justice in the fucking free world has been accused of obstruction of justice. That's what we like to see. Gaetz has long denied any wrongdoing, and the Justice Department informed Gaetz in 2023 that it was declining to bring charges against him after its investigation. The investigation into Gaetz stemmed from a probe into the Florida congressman's one-time friend, former Seminole County tax collector Joel Greenberg, who was sentenced in 2022 to 11 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to multiple charges, including sex trafficking a minor and introducing the minor to other adult men. Since the Justice Department declined to charge Gaetz following its investigation, the Florida congressman has faced an ongoing probe by the House Ethics Committee regarding the same allegations. In September, Gaetz released a lengthy statement concerning the ongoing House Ethics probe into his alleged conduct. Gaetz stated that he would no longer voluntarily participate in the probe and included a string of answers seemingly to questions the committee asked the Florida congressman earlier that month. The House Ethics Committee drops an investigation into a member once they leave Congress. House Ethics Committee Chairman Michael Guest told ABC News, once a member is no longer a member of Congress, then ethics has no jurisdiction. So if Matt Gaetz were to be appointed as the Attorney General, the ethics investigation is currently ongoing, would cease at that point, Guest said. Sounds like a good, nice thing to do for a friend. Sounds like a way to get your friend out of trouble. House Republicans were meeting behind closed doors when Trump announced he would be nominating Gaetz to serve as Attorney General. There was an audible gasp in the room. Several members who were inside told ABC News. Many House Republicans on Capitol Hill are reacting to Trump's pick of Gaetz. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and Representative Guest expressed support for Trump's selection of Gaetz as Attorney General. Republican Representative Max Miller, a former aide to Donald Trump, who was particularly critical of Gaetz following Florida congressman's efforts to oust former Speaker Kevin McCarthy last year, said the pick was silly and that Gaetz would never get confirmed by the Senate. I mean, fingers crossed. I believe that the president is probably rewarding him for being such a loyal soldier to the president. Crazy language. Listen to the language people are using. They're telling you things with the language they are using. But the president is smart enough and his team is smart enough to know that Mr. Gaetz will never get confirmed by Senate whatsoever. Miller said exactly what I said. It's a favor for a fucking friend. You're going to see a lot of favors for bad men in this second term and bad women too. Just as a refresher, okay, I'm not sitting at what the Attorney General does. In short, is the Attorney General represents the United States in legal matters generally and gives advice and opinions to the president and to the heads of the executive departments of the government when so requested. In matters of exceptional gravity or importance, the Attorney General appears in person before the Supreme Court. And they haven't been a problem recently, so we should be good. And also, just in case you're trying to get me on the Matt Gaetz thing, I don't know who the fuck would be arguing for Matt Gaetz, but it happened online because, of course, I made a little TikTok and everyone got their panties in a bunch. But someone said that the victim who accused Matt Gaetz of sleeping with her when she was underage, someone said that woman was charged with bribery. And no, she wasn't. There was bribery involved in this mess, but it was not the victim. Like, please don't just see a word and then say that must be it. Please, that is not what happened at all. I looked into it at length. What happened was when was this? In August of 2021, okay, the Justice Department unveiled a grand jury indictment against a Florida man for his alleged role in a scheme to defraud the family of Florida Republican Representative Matt Gaetz out of $25 million, okay? His name was Stephen Alford, 62-year-old guy from Fort Walton Beach. And this is what was going on with the bribery. It said that Alford is alleged to have been involved in a scheme to obtain money based upon false promises or guarantees he made to the victim, that Alford, the guy charged, could deliver a presidential pardon for a family member of the victim. Okay, that's what happened. So please. Alex was right. It's so bad to have all this misinformation floating around. All right. Moving on. We also have, obviously, Elon Musk and
Hold on, just real quick. We have a bunch of people who are texting me on the line. I told them probably better to save those for next week.
Yeah.
But we did get 2 super chats in. First time ever super chats on this show. I think that's pretty cool.
Okay. Wait. So is that just like you pay for the?
Yeah, so you have $5 from ZZXXZZ, says, don't know how you do it, Harrington. And then Kenny Delgatti says, girl dads rock.
Oh, well, that's Kenny. We love Kenny.
Kenny's the man.
I know Kenny in real life. I love that someone, I'll you know what, I'll Venmo you that $5 personally because I don't want that dirty money. So I'll give you an extra $5. If any trolls want to send money to Mike Harrington, just say something stupid in the chat and I'll give it right to him because I don't need your dirty cash. I'm doing just fine. Let's see. Also, I love that these people just hate watch the show. Who has the time, you know? This is from the New York Times. Trump taps Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to slash government. The two wealthy entrepreneurs, are we sensing a theme, will lead what the president-elect called the Department of Government Efficiency. And I know no one's more efficient than billionaires and millionaires, which he said would seek drastic change, but the announcement left a lot unanswered. let's see. All right, let's see. This fucking. I don't know how much bandwidth the New York Times uses, but it's the only website that does not come up. How do you slash, cut, restructure, and even dismantle parts of the federal government? If you're President-elect Donald J. Trump, you turn to two wealthy entrepreneurs. The spaceship inventing, electric car building owner of a social media platform, and a monkey-making former pharmaceutical executive, money-making, sorry. I literally look like monkey to me. And a money-making former, I was thinking about those experiments that Elon was doing, and a money-making former pharmaceutical executive who was once one of your presidential arrivals. Mr. Trump said on Tuesday that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will lead what he called the Department of Government Efficiency. It will be, he said, the Manhattan Project of this era, driving drastic change throughout the government with major cuts and new efficiencies in bloated agencies in the federal bureaucracy by July 4th, 2026. The date sounds interesting. Sounds like Project 2025 vibes of a dictatorship incoming. Bloated agencies making, kind of making less roles in the government. We don't need all that bloat. More power to the people who aren't part of the bloat. Okay, a smaller government with more efficiency and less bureaucracy will be the perfect gift to America on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, Mr. Trump wrote in a statement. Chilling. Truly chilling. I am confident they will succeed. The statement left unanswered all kinds of major questions about an initiative that is uncertain in seriousness, but potentially vast in scope. For starters, the president-elect did not address the fact that no such a department exists. We're going to see a lot of that. We're going to see a lot of new departments. And he did not elaborate on whether his two rich supporters would hire a staff for the new department. Or maybe they'll just run it themselves, which he said is aimed in part at reducing the federal workforce. Yeah, so your guys' first step in this struggling economy that you guys hate so much is reducing the workforce. That's good. Mr. Musk, less jobs. Mr. Musk, who became one of Mr. Trump's biggest campaign contributors, said before the election that he would help the president-elect cut $2 trillion from the federal budget. But he did not explain in any detail how that would be accomplished, especially with all those deportations, or what parts of the government would be slashed. I guess he's going to, by creating a dictatorship, he's going to save money that he can then use to deport people. There you go. I figured it out. This will send shockwaves through the system and anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people, Mr. Musk said in the statement. The statement by Mr. Trump also did not address how Mr. Musk in particular would handle this task. So you're going to have more money perhaps, your groceries might be cheaper, but you also did lose your job, without creating conflicts of interest, given that SpaceX has secured more than $10 billion worth of federal contracts over the last decade. SpaceX, Tesla, and other companies Mr. Musk created, such as Neuralink, which is manufacturing computer chips that are implanted in the brain, have also been targeted recently in at least 20 different investigations or lawsuits by federal agencies. That means Mr. Musk will somehow be watching over agencies that police his companies. Mr. Trump's statement said only that this new department would, quote, provide advice and guidance from outside of government, suggesting that Mr. Musk will not take a formal role as a federal officer. Slashing government regulations and spending became a top priority for Mr. Musk as his frustrations have grown, particularly this year with what he considers excessive or redundant oversight by the Federal Aviation Administration and the Interior Department as SpaceX sought launch licenses to continue testing its newest rockets called Starship. SpaceX's Texas launch site is set up next to a national wildlife refuge and state park, requiring detailed environmental reviews before launches, a process that has infuriated Mr. Musk, slowing his plans to take humans to Mars. The name of the new department, DOGE, appeared to be a play on another one of Mr. Musk's many investments, the cryptocurrency Dogecoin, which the billionaire regularly promotes to others. Who was he? Male fucking Amber Rose? Mr. Ramaswamy a 39-year-old political novice, challenged Mr. Trump for the Republican nomination before dropping out and becoming a fervent Trump acolyte. As Mr. Trump campaigned in the last year, Mr. Ramaswamy became a frequent surrogate, singing his praises and spreading the conspiracy theories that Mr. Trump had long embraced. As part of his message, Mr. Ramaswamy vowed to help take Mr. Trump's promise to cut government even further. He proposed immediately eliminating the education department. Okay, I just wanted a moment of silence for that. The FBI and the Internal Revenue Service by executive order. He said the federal workforce should be cut by 75% in a mass layoff. And he said he would slash foreign aid to places like Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Promises of government reform are hardly new in Washington. Previous presidents have pledged much the same, though often without quite as much flourish. In 1993, after President Bill Clinton promised to reinvent government, Vice President Al Gore led the newly created National Partnership for Reinventing Government. The goal was similar to Mr. Trump's effort to reduce federal spending by eliminating wasteful programs, cutting unnecessary jobs, and making the bureaucracy work better. By the time it ended 5 years later, Mr. Gore's effort had succeeded in reducing some overlap in government programs and cutting some federal jobs, but it fell far short of a total reinvention of the government. With about 3 million employees, the federal government headcount has grown slightly in recent years, but remains well below the peak it reached in the late 1980s. Mr. Trump, whose political appeal was built in part on a promise to drain the swamp in Washington, has long taken aim at the size of the bureaucracy. But in his first term, he did little to act on those promises. Now, he is promising that Mr. Musk and Mr. Ramaswamy will succeed where he did not. I look forward to Elon and Vivek making changes to the federal bureaucracy with an eye on efficiency and at the same time making life better for all Americans, Mr. Trump wrote. Importantly, we will drive out the massive waste and fraud which exists throughout our annual $6.5 trillion of government spending. All right, I guess we'll see. And then I also wanted to, this is a kind of a response to what we were talking about last week with Polymarket, right? Polymarket is the betting app that predicted the Trump win. Well, what do you know? The FBI raided the home of the CEO of Polymarket this week, who's 26 years old, by the way. Can you access this Forbes article? Because I think this is the one I really wanted to read. If you can pull it up like full on the screen. But I can't get past the paywall. So if not, I do have a backup article from the New York Post. But the New York Post is like bottom of the barrel. Especially for like money related things, I feel like Forbes is just a better bet. Take a little stretch break if you're listening at home as Michael gets through this paywall, you know? Take a little stretch.
Take a deep breath.
Feeling good. Are you having trouble, Mike? No? Okay. Yeah, they raided his house. They took a lot of his digital assets. Can you make it the whole screen, though? Because I can't read this. Well, okay. Oh, I meant like take me out of the screen. Or no. That's too hard. That's fucking with your jam. Okay, let me see. Let's test my LASIK. Federal agents raided the Soho apartment of Polymarket founder and CEO Shane Copland, 26, early this morning, seizing electronic devices, according to reports from Axios and the New York Post. The raid comes just days after Copland's prediction platform forecasted Donald Trump's victory in the 2024 presidential election ahead of national polls. I literally feel like I'm taking an eye exam right now. A source cited by the New York Post claims FBI agents arrived at Copland's residence at 6 a.m., demanding access to his phone and other electronic devices. It remains unclear whether Copland or Polymarket is the target of an ongoing investigation. Copland founded Polymarket in 2020 in New York after studying computer science at NYU, but dropping out after completing just one semester. Again, another really inspiring story of like, don't let the fact that you don't really have anything on the books hold you back. The blockchain-based prediction marketplace lets users bet on things like political elections, economic indicators, and popular awards by buying by buying and selling shares tied to specific outcomes. Polymarket has surpassed $3 billion in trading volume so far this year. While blockchain technology isn't necessary to create such a betting market, Polymarket uses a network called Polygon, which operates 24/7 and sits atop Ethereum, where transactions cost fractions of the chain's normal fees. Polymarket accepts U.S. dollar-based wagers in the form of stablecoin USDC, but since July, customers have been able to use debit and credit cards. Polymarket effectively takes what otherwise would be an internet yelling match and turns that into a market where the person who's right wins, Copland said in an interview to Forbes in August. So good idea, right? The company has raised $74 million from investors, including Peter Thiel's Founders Fund and Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin, and his former CFTC chairman Chris Giancarlo and forecasting expert Nate Silver on its advisory board. A Polymarket spokesperson suggested the raid was politically motivated, which of course did cross my mind. This is obvious political retribution by the outgoing administration against Polymarket for providing a market that correctly called the 2024 presidential election, he reportedly told Axios. But again, think back to what I said about Rachel Maddow at the beginning. Polymarket is a fully transparent prediction market that helps everyday people better understand the events that matter most to them, including elections. Polymarket and the FBI have not responded to Forbes' requests for comment. So again, we'll put a pin on it. In it, we will see. Let's move on to some more, they're not like existential topics, but some more wider, broader topics. This might have been the first time you've heard of this movement, but I'm sure you've heard about it after this past week. I am talking about the 4B movement, okay? This is from pbs.org, trying to keep it zen. No sex, no dating, no marriage, no children. Interest grows in 4B movement to swear off men. And in the hours following former President Donald Trump's election victory, Google searches related to 4B, a fringe South Korean feminist movement that made a name for itself in the mid to late 2010s, surged in the United States. It's called 4B because B is a shorthand for the word no in Korean, and a series of no's is what the movement calls for. No sex, no dating, no marrying men, no children. Young women on Instagram and TikTok are the primary demographic behind the recent American surge in interest. The idea behind the movement is individual resistance against what it defines as a conservative political environment and the corrosion of reproductive rights. Michaela Thomas, a 21-year-old artist in Georgia, told the Washington Post that she first heard about the 4B movement about a year ago. Young men expect sex, but they also want us to not be able to have access to abortion, Thomas told the Post. They can't have both. Young women don't want to be intimate with men who don't fight for women's rights. It's showing they don't respect us. And while I agree, it is showing that they don't respect you, I don't know that enough women have enough respect for themselves to not fuck men who don't fight for their rights, you know? I'm going to still be fucking. I know we're not supposed to fuck anyone. I'm going to still be fucking. My boyfriend voted for Kamala. But at this point, I don't think I could fuck someone who voted for Trump this time. I think that's off the table for me. And you know, I was like very open to that previously. I think the book is closed on that for me. The concept of a sex strike is not new. The ancient Greek play Lysistrata. How do you say that correctly? I thought it was like Lysistrata. I think it's Lysistrata. My Greek mythology knowledge and Greek knowledge in general is bad. Highlights women swearing off sex to protest the Peloponnesian War. In South Korea, the 4B movement took root at a time when the country was undergoing its own reckoning with gender violence and equality issues. It is a country with one of the widest wage gaps in the world. In the United States, there is a growing ideological divide between young men and women. Women aged 18 to 30 are 30% more liberal than men of the same age, according to the Financial Times. Some experts point to the 2018 #MeToo movement as the key trigger in the rise in feminist values among women and the subsequent backlash among young men. Yeah, I think it was a real bipartisan issue when all the women got together and said, hey, I was raped too. And I think that really opened some fucking eyes. Yes. And then if you want to read further on 4B, though, I'm not going to take too much more time on it because I just don't think it's going to catch on enough for it to be more than kind of a TikTok conversation. But if you're planning on engaging it, please give me a call. You know, convince me otherwise. Convince me that I should be a part of it.
Lysistrata.
Lysistrata, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Lysistrata. So like it's red. There's an interesting longer article about 4B on theconversation.com that's called A Woman is Not a Baby-Making Machine, A Brief History of South Korea's 4B Movement and Why It's Making Waves in America, if you want to read up more on that and the success rate and everything in South Korea. Another thing I wanted to get to that I saw this headline and I said, wow, if this isn't up my fucking alley. From Mother Jones, the other big election winners, private prisons. Oh, how fucking crazy. GEO Group was the single biggest winner in the U.S. stock market among companies of any size. Donald Trump's win on Tuesday has sent private prison company stocks soaring as investors anticipate that the president-elect's promises of mass deportation will increase the need for immigration detention. So again, that's costing money, but it's also making money for your friends who own these private prisons. Because as we've learned on this show, people are in prison because it makes other people money. Stocks for GEO Group and Core Civic, the nation's largest private prison operators, increased 42% and 29% respectively on Wednesday. Financial news site Sherwood News concluded that GEO Group was the single biggest winner in the U.S. stock market among companies of any size. The GEO Group was built for this unique moment, said GEO Group founder and executive chairman George Zoley on an earnings call on Thursday. He called Trump's plans an unprecedented opportunity, I'll say. Zoe also noted, according to the HuffPost, that GEO Group is well positioned to scale up its ICE detention bed count from 13,500 to more than 31,000. Contracts with federal, state, and local governments, which include 85,000 beds, could also be redirected towards federal needs. There would likely be a scramble for beds, he said, and we believe ICE will have top priority on all available beds around the country. Also, I don't know if you guys saw the guy who's going to be the actual border czar, which again, Republican term. I mean, it's a real thing, but just like the way people were using it for Kamala was completely inaccurate, as we discussed on the or what the role entailed was completely and what Joe Biden had told her to do was not like vaguely watch the border. Like, that's not what Kamala's role at all was. To reiterate, it was part of the Roots, an initiative called the Roots Cause Strategy, and it was simply for Kamala to look at immigrants from Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Mexico and see why the number of people coming from those places to the United States has skyrocketed in recent years. And I know I say that a lot. I reiterate that a lot because it's one of the broadest points of misinformation that I have heard on the right throughout this election period. And the answer is so simple, succinct, and easy to repeat. So that's why I keep repeating it to you guys. Mass deportation was a pillar. So the border czar under Trump is going to be the former head of ICE. Cool. Mass deportation was a pillar of Trump's campaign, as Mother Jones's Isabella DS wrote. At least that rule makes more sense, though, right? In a second term, Trump has pledged to fulfill his promise and conduct the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. His acolytes, led by hardliner Stephen Miller, have spent years devising legal workarounds to prevent their extreme proposals from being curtailed or killed in the courts. This time around, they plan to invoke an infamous 18th century wartime law, deploy the National Guard, and build massive detention camps, and intend on reshaping the federal bureaucracy to ensure it happens, drafting executive orders and filling the administration with loyalists who will quickly implement the policies. No one's off the table, said Tom Homan, the former acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE under Trump. If you're in the country illegally, you are a target. If Trump and his allies have it their way, armed troops and out-of-state law enforcement would likely blitz into communities. It's fucking Holocaust style. Knocking on doors, searching workplaces and homes, literally what they did in the Holocaust, and arbitrarily interrogating and arresting suspected undocumented immigrants. The dragnet would almost certainly ensnare U.S. citizens too. Of course. Just so bad for people of color, for sure. Like brown people specifically, where you really, people can, where are you from? Private prisons weren't the only industry with soaring stock prices after the election. Other big winners, CNN reports, include crypto stocks, credit card companies, and banks, and Tesla. All right. I want to quickly get into a God watch. Obviously, the main story was Trump and all his picks. I wanted to get into a God watch, though, because there was a lot of conversation about the Amish vote in Pennsylvania. And I thought this was interesting. And I really want to keep an eye on these religious areas and groups that come together to make change. Again, that's kind of what God Watch is all about. So this is from the New York Post. Sorry, best I could do. How Trump won Pennsylvania's Amish vote with the help of missionaries and Elon Musk. Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, about 100 miles north of Washington, D.C., at the nexus of quiet country roads, sits a network of bustling small businesses and community connections that helped deliver the swing state of Pennsylvania for President-elect Donald Trump. For nearly a decade, with the smells of fresh manure and homemade shoe-fly pie in their nostrils, GOP operatives have worked diligently to register an undercourted voting bloc, the Amish. Despite their efforts, attendance at the polls was long lagging for a reason that escaped outsiders but was obvious to locals. Election day falls on a Tuesday, but for many Amish, so does wedding day. The deeply religious and rural group traditionally only holds marriage ceremonies on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the fall, just as harvest season kicks off. So this year, a group of local Republicans came together to finish the work National Republicans started by offering car rides directly to the polls from Amish weddings. This was a missionary effort to reach an unreached people. And I will say, I have to commend the Republicans. They do not spend as much time infighting and nitpicking each other. And believe me, that it happens, but not in the way that you see it happen on the left. And because of that, they have time to put together the fucking Amish carpool. Okay, guys? That's what we need to be looking at, what votes on the left we can actually get and how to make it happen. This was a missionary effort to reach an unreached people. Organizer Lisa Burwell Perry, an avid churchgoer and a teacher's wife, told the Post. This is about neighbors helping neighbors. Religious people, they are able to come together in a way that non-religious people are not, okay? That is their strength. That is their superhero quality. By Burwell Perry's count, 200 community members shuttled about 26,000 people from Amish weddings to the polls to vote for Trump on Election Day. That is a staggering number. For 200 people to get 26,000 votes in, that's fucking impressive. One of the highest turnouts the region has seen in recent history. Operation Help Thy Neighbor. The effort kicked off days before Election Day when Burwell Perry took, in her words, 17 seconds to whip up a flyer with phone numbers to call for free rides to the polls, launching what she called Operation Help Thy Neighbor from her Bainbridge church basement. A longtime area resident, Burwell Perry knew that Amish weddings typically last from dawn to dusk with a brief break between church services. Bitch did her research, offering just a short window of opportunity for wedding guests to get to the polls. But the time-consuming nature of transportation by horse-drawn carriage made even that challenging to accomplish. With this knowledge and, quote, a lot of prayer, Burwell Perry said she spent her November mortgage payment printing out 10,000 copies of her flyer and paying locals to drop them off at farms and slip them into buggies parked across the southern Pennsylvania counties home to the majority of the state's Amish. Elon Musk's America PAC later pledged to reimburse Burwell Perry and rented her little operation that could about 30 computers and a Starlink device so she and her fellow local activists could run a call center from a church basement. I'm impressed. By the morning of November 5th, the organizer had gathered and vetted 200 drivers to offer rides and dozens of phone bank workers to take calls. But first, Burwell Perry had to find the weddings. Like Amish church services, Amish weddings are often held in farmhouses, the locations of which are kept tightly secret, with fathers of the brides usually announcing their daughter's wedding details only by word of mouth in church. But that's how I'm going to announce my wedding. With the help of some Amish neighbors, Burwell Perry learned of just a handful of weddings happening on Election Day. She then tapped Lancaster County residents Brenda Bisecker-Clare and Joe Goody to act as scouts Tuesday morning, looking for Amish families heading to local farms in their Sunday best. A dead giveaway. They were headed to a marriage ceremony. When the pair would find a wedding, they'd offer rides and call in the address to Burwell Perry, whose team, which included some Mennonite and Amish volunteers, would dispatch additional drivers to the locations. Bisecker-Clare called what she saw a modern-day miracle. If a load of Amish got out of my car at a wedding, they would be like, "Can you wait here a minute?" And they would say, "I'm going to go tell my brother," she said. And then the brother would come out with his wife and his sister and her husband, and it just went on like that all day. Amish Republican crossover. So what would a group so devoted to humility that they don't even put faces on their daughter's baby dolls have in common with a former reality TV star and real estate mogul ex-president? According to dozens of Amish, Mennonite, and ex-Amish who spoke with the Post this week, many of the group's deepest held beliefs, including limited government and freedom of religion, went hand in hand with Republican campaign platforms. For John Henry Smucker, 28, it was Trump's anti-establishment beliefs that resonated. Growing up on an Amish dairy farm, he saw his family repeatedly raided by Food and Drug Administration investigators searching for raw milk products, which you can look into more. That's a separate story. But a lot of people had been getting sick. They weren't just doing it to fuck with the Amish. People had been getting very ill from the Amish raw milk. My dad was a farmer who sold all his own products from the farm. So we made cottage cheese, ice cream, yogurt, and we sold raw milk, he told the Post. And so I experienced the government overreach myself. We would get raided. We never got stuff taken out, but we would get threats. I'd see this stuff going on, and I said, a responsible American citizen should know if they want to drink raw milk or not. And you know what? In a certain way, I agree with him. If you want to drink raw milk and get sick, do it. I kind of agree with that, like when they made like the cups for soft drinks, like in New York, they like limited how big the cup would be. I said I disagree with that. I say if you want to kill yourself from sugar, you should be able to do so. Also, like anyone can get around that. You just get multiple cups. It's like the way I take the dinner plate at the buffet to the dessert table. I'm not a fucking idiot. They put so many pesticides and poison into our food, and they want to tell me that this stuff that's good for us is illegal. Also agree with that. I don't know that the answer is all the way on the flip side of raw milk, but do what you want. It's your body. So so that was a big deal to me growing up, and it did shape my leanings conservative. That same issue riled Lancaster County Amish this past January when one of the area's largest local farm shops, Amos Miller Organic Farm, was targeted by the FDA. Investigators confiscated thousands of dollars worth of raw milk and other products Miller sold for a living, such as granola. The Amos Miller incident had a galvanizing effect on many Amish who said they had enough of the overreach. You'll hear people say a lot that they vote with their knees. One Amish woman who asked not to be named told the Post they don't want to be involved with the government and just want to be left alone. But now the government has come for us. Smucker agreed, saying if these people wish to keep the freedom they have to gather in places not in secret and continue to live their Christian freedoms, they have to voice their opinion and their beliefs in not only elections or not only in federal elections, but especially local elections. I do believe that you should be able to do whatever you want, and you should be able to practice your religion freely, but also, just because you're a part of a religion doesn't mean that you do not have to, just because your religion is kind of like living off the grid, doesn't mean that you can just live in a place and not abide by any of the rules of that place. That's how women end up sex slaves. Musk acknowledged the sentiment in child marriages and shit like that. Musk acknowledged the sentiment in an interview with conservative commentator Tucker Carlson last week. The Democrats did make a mistake because there was government overreach that shut down some Amish farmers, which really made them upset. That's probably the timing wasn't good. The Tesla X and SpaceX boss said, and you just need to be able to channel the fact that they're upset. There's a thing you can do, which is called voting, and we're happy to transport. Other issues that resonated with would-be Amish voters included abortion restrictions and the prevalence of gender transition surgery on children. So when Burwell Perry's volunteers showed up, they found an enthusiastic audience. It was like shooting fish in a barrel, said volunteer Levi King, who was raised Amish but left the church in adulthood. So many wanted to vote. Voting is the only thing you can do to preserve this way of life. There are just over 90,000 Amish in Pennsylvania, about half of whom are eligible to vote, according to the Young Center for Anabaptist and Pietist Studies at Elizabethtown College. However, pre-2024 estimates had indicated that only roughly 10% of the religious group went to the polls. National Republican organizers were aware of the potential well of support, but their lack of understanding of the community hampered their efforts. In 2016 and 2020, local party activists who registered Amish voters made claims that turned out to be much greater than the reality turned out to be, Elizabethtown professor of history and Anabaptist studies Stephen Nolt told the Post. Trump himself got caught in the same trap when he held a rally in Lancaster County November 3rd. When the Republican nominee noted that he did not see any Amish in attendance, the crowd chanted back, "It's Sunday, they're at church." The Amish alone did not give Trump Pennsylvania's 19 electoral votes, with 99% of the votes counted as of Monday evening. The Republican nominee led Vice President Kamala Harris by just over 144,000 votes. For one thing, the entire Amish adult population in York, Dauphin, and Lebanon counties combined is only about 1,300 people, Nolt said. And even if 100% of Lancaster's eligible voters were registered and had a 100% turnout rate, that would only be about 18,000 Amish. While tallying each Amish vote is a painstaking process that Nolt said will take months to years to complete, the raw data from Amish-heavy rural Pennsylvania counties shows marked improvement in voter turnout, according to an analysis by the Post. Statewide, there were roughly 40,000 fewer ballots cast in 2024 than in 2020, but in Lancaster, Chester, Lebanon, Dauphin, and York counties, the vote increased by about 27,080 ballots, about 2.56% of the region's 1,083,531 total votes tallied. Broken down, there were 10,048 more ballots cast in Chester County, 1,185 more in Lebanon County, 313 more in Dauphin, 8,729 more in Lancaster, which I think if you go to Amish country as like a vacation, you're mostly going to Lancaster County, and 6,805 more in York County, according to official Pennsylvania election data. Local activists say the rural vote increase should not be discounted. On Monday, Burwell Perry was already knocking doors and visiting area barns to register even more Amish to participate in the next election. The Amish have shown up, Bisecker Claire said, and when they do, you know it's serious. All right. I think that is all we have time for today. 2 hours just flies by when you're having so much fun on this show. I want to thank you guys again for all your wonderful emails. I had more wacko mail that I wanted to read, but there was just so much stuff I wanted to get to this week. Things that are evergreen or that are still feel relevant next week, I can push over. There's always so much to do on this show. If you want extra show, of course, sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/withoutacountry. Thanks to all my patrons. Thanks to all my regular listeners, my watchers, to Mike in the booth. If you want to follow me on Instagram, please follow me at PhilanthropyGal. I'm also, for the meantime, on X at PhilanthropyGal and on Threads. And most importantly, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. youtube.com/withoutacountry. You can also follow the Without a Country podcast on Instagram. That's a fun follow and a growing community. And that's it. But yeah, I'm very interested in women running for local government. If you have already gone through that process, if you're interested in going through that process, some people already emailed me. But yeah, tell me how what change you're making in your local community, and what grassroots efforts you're a part of. I'm really interested in that. And then, of course, you can continue to send me stories that you find interesting, Substacks, things that you read in college, books you read, just kind of cut it down so I can get to what you want to show me quickly. But you guys have been amazing at doing that. I appreciate you.
Thanks, bitch. Have a great day.
Yeah, I love ya. And thanks for watching as usual. Follow Mike at Them Harrington on Instagram. This has been Without a Country. We'll talk to you next week. Peace. Bye.